to another episode of The Movie, The Game. Or in this case, the pay-per-view, The Game. That's right, we're not talking about a movie this week. We're talking about, well, basically a wrestling pay-per-view created to push a game. That had never happened before in the history of the business. But in 1999, when WCW was attempting to rebrand itself to be more hip, more cool with the kids, they completely changed their look and focused on the Mayhem. That's right, if you were a wrestling fan during the Attitude Era, congratulations, your back hurts, you need an ibuprofen. I'll hold on while you get one. And I'll be here when you get back. Now, when the WCW Mayhem game came out, it was the summer of 1999. That year started off with a very infamous incident in pro wrestling history, the finger poke of doom. That was when Hulk Hogan triumphantly defeated Kevin Nash with the power of his index finger to win the WCW Championship after Kevin Nash had ended Goldberg's massive undefeated streak, thus winning the title, reuniting the NWO for the first time in well over a year. Sure, over a year. I don't know the math off the top of my head. But looking back, wrestling historians, which is a thing I guess, they see that finger poke of doom as the beginning of the end for WCW's big hot streak. If you're a newer wrestling fan, you may not be aware that for 84 weeks during the late 90s, WCW's Monday Nitro was kicking the arse of WWF's Monday Night Raw in the television ratings. Back when you actually had to tune into things or you would miss them. I know myself as a fan, I tended to watch WCW Nitro and record Raw to watch the next day, which, hey, 2 days of wrestling was awesome. But the WWF's quality had been on a bit of a downturn while WCW came up. In the early 90s, around 94, WCW managed to pilfer the great Hulk Hogan, who you can see right here on my t-shirt, from his Hollywood career after his WWF tenure had ended in 93, making a big splash with his arrival in WCW that year. And while fans like myself were excited to see that because I grew up a Hulkamaniac, there were a lot of fans that weren't so big on the Hulkster. And over time, his popularity was beginning to go to a downturn. Well, in 1996, something wonderful happened. And my favorite wrestler from the 90s, Razor Ramon, showed up on WCW Monday Nitro. He was now going by his real name, Scott Hall. And he was talking about some kind of invasion that was going to happen. Back then, you had the dirt sheets, but you didn't have the internet as at our fingertips as we do today. So it was harder to look into these rumors, and a lot of people thought that Vince McMahon was making a move, sending his people to WCW. And Scott Hall talked about more coming. The next week, Kevin Nash, this guy right here, also showed up on Nitro, and they formed a little tag team called The Outsiders. They began talking about a third man, and eventually, at Bash at the Beach, 96, there was going to be a six-man tag where you have 3 men on one side and 3 on the other in a tag match. And defending WCW was Sting, still in his surfer gear, but he'd grown out the blonde hair and now had brown curls, sort of. Macho Man Randy Savage, who had come over to WCW in 95, I want to say. And also the man that some people say kicked off the Monday Night Wars himself, Lex Luger, who showed up surprisingly on the very first WCW Monday Nitro at the Mall of America after he was on a WWF pay-per-view the night before. Well, the Outsiders came out with just Scott and Kevin. And there were rumors, who was the third man? Well, when the match was almost over, we see Hulk Hogan in the red and yellow coming out to the ring. And the crowd is starting to get excited. They think he's there to save the WCW guys. And Bobby Heenan says something to this day that rings in my head. But whose side is he on? No one thought Hulk would turn heel and turn on WCW, but sure enough, there's Macho Man in the ring. Hogan comes in and just casually drops the leg on him, ending the match. Hulk Hogan was your third man, creating the New World Order, and thus kicking off the biggest era in WCW's history, and one of the best eras in pro wrestling. Now, in 1999, that was starting to wane. There was a civil war inside of the NWO, which had become resolved after the finger poke of doom. And the WCW product as a whole was starting to cool off for many reasons that I'm not going to get into. Well, during that hot time for WCW, the video game publisher THQ had released several video games around the product. Now, also in this era, if you were a video game fan, you know that there was a bit of a console war going on. Nothing as big as the great 16-bit wars of the early 90s, but you had the PlayStation by Sony, Nintendo's Nintendo 64, and Sega Saturn by 1999, I don't think was still a contender. There was, however, going to be a Sega Dreamcast later that year, but it was kind of a rough spot for Sega. They were almost done, unfortunately. R.I.P. So you had a big competition between Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64. Now, there's a console war between Xbox and PlayStation fans, but really, if you get a game, say Call of Duty, on PlayStation, it's going to be similar on the Xbox. Those console-exclusive games are much rarer, to say the least. But in the 90s, when THQ was publishing WCW games, you had on the PlayStation side WCW Nitro, which I enjoyed. It used a Mortal Kombat style control scheme for the special moves, while also being a 3D arena fighter based in a wrestling arena. I had a blast with that game. And its sequel, WCW Thunder, which took the Nitro formula and added more things like ring entrance videos, weapons at ringside. Both really good games. Check out some footage from the two.
Hey, monkey boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God. Pick the man with the plan. Pick DDP.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt them real bad.
Pile driver. Pile driver. Tiger DDP's in rare form.
You know, I tricked you before, I'm gonna trick you again, but this time, the torture is gonna last longer on the Hollywood Walk of Shame. Goldberg here. If you pick me, you'll find out who's next. Ah!
Vertical suplex. Power bomb. Power bomb. Hogan's looking tired. Bird's looking tired. Hogan's pounding it out. One, two, three. Hogan wins.
This is the Stinger, and I'm in the mood for handing out more than just one Stinger death drop. So you want to step in the ring with the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be? Step in the ring with the greatest technical wrestler in the history of the WCW.
Driver. Power bomb. Vertical suplex. Vertical suplex. One. Deep kick down. Pile driver. Oh, it's almost gone. One. Two. Deep kick down. Pile driver.
Yo, Monkey Boy, listen. If you ain't all jacked up, then hit the bricks and pick some other loser. But if you are jacked and you are ready to let someone feel the bang, well, then pick me. It's not like there's a choice anyway.
Big Papa Pump, you step around with me, you'll find out the man with the largest arms in the world does whatever he wants. You'll find out why they call me the superstar.
Now, over on the Nintendo 64 side, you had what are hands down some of the greatest pro wrestling games ever made. These games today are still being modified with current rosters, or in some cases even classic rosters like 80s WWF. These were WCW NWO World Tour, which was the first game THQ released for the Nintendo 64, and its sequel, and my personal favorite Nintendo 64 wrestling game, WCW NWO Revenge. Take a look.
One, two, three. 3-count fall.
1, 2, 3. 3 count fall. What?
Now, while THQ did a fantastic job with their two separate entities on PlayStation and Nintendo 64, they would lose the WCW license in 1999. And the surprise, being that WCW was the bigger brand until that point, was THQ was moving over to the WWF license. They would then go on to release the SmackDown series, which in a way was running all the way until 2012 when THQ folded, on the PlayStation side. And WWF WrestleMania 2000 and probably everyone else's favorite Nintendo 64 wrestling game, WWF No Mercy. It didn't have Hulk Hogan though, so, not my favorite. Now, when THQ lost the license to WCW, the big question was who's going to take it? Well, Electronic Arts, who you probably know today from games such as Madden, they came in and took the WCW license. And the video game magazines at the time were making a humongous deal about the biggest name in sports getting into sports entertainment. And the first EA game was going to be a big deal. And finally, in the summer of 1999, we got WCW Mayhem. It released on the PlayStation, the Nintendo 64, and the Game Boy Color. And for myself as a wrestling fan and a WCW fan, this was the greatest game ever made. Now, WCW Mayhem had a similar style, graphically, to the previous THQ games on the N64. It was a 3D grappling-based fighting game. The roster was current as of early 1999. You even had factions. You had the WCW team, which had Goldberg, Black and White Sting, Lex Luger. Bret Hart had recently come over to WCW in a very, very public breakup with WWF at Survivor Series in '97. He joined the roster for WCW Thunder, originally on PlayStation, and was, of course, in WCW Mayhem. You then had the NWO Black and White, which, when you look at that roster, was very, very thin. And probably the biggest name in that Black and White roster was former Harlem Heat partner to Booker T, Stevie Ray. Booker T, of course, being in the WCW stable. I have a feeling when this game was first being put together, you still had the NWO Black and White and the NWO Wolfpack, or Red, split. And they did not see the unification coming. And then you get to the NWO Wolfpack roster. And sure enough, there's Hollywood Hogan in his black and white gear still. You had Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, Wolfpack Sting, one of my favorites, and Conan as well. And then you go from there to the Four Horsemen roster with Ric Flair, Dean Malenko, He Who Shall Not Be Named, and Mongo himself. Finally, there was the Cruiserweight and Hardcore rosters. Cruiserweights had a lot of the luchadors, including Chris Jericho, a maskless Rey Mysterio. For modern WWE fans, or at least WWE fans from the last 21 years, get a kick of maskless Rey Mysterio. And finally, under the Hardcore, you had Raven, Perry Saturn, a lot of the former Flock members. And then, of course, you could create your own wrestler, which was a pretty neat new thing for a WCW game at the time. Now, for the footage here, I used the PlayStation 1 version. Let's take a look at some of the matches on WCW Mayhem for the PlayStation 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's worldwide television presentation of Saturday Night Wrestling. It is scheduled for one fall. There will be no time limit. Now introducing the total package, Lex Luger.
Hey, Brain, heard anything about this guy?
You know, this guy's made the rounds with WCW, but I think it's time he did something to really make a statement.
You're absolutely right, Brain.
His opponent, he is a member of the Cruiserweight division, Rey Mysterio Jr.
He's ready to fight for what he wants.
And you can tell by the reaction of these great fans that he is, in fact, one of the most popular wrestlers in WCW. Okay, folks, there's the bell. Let's see if this one lives up to the hype.
Some guys want glory. Some guys want money. These two guys want to fight for the shit.
Train name, the Total Package. Shoulder breaker. Great anticipation there. Elbow. Double axe handle. Fine.
That was an awful move. I mean now. I haven't seen anybody shake like that since the process server of Coast Open.
Rey Mysterio is looking like he's about ready to go down. That's a win for the books.
The winner, the Total Package, Lex Luger.
But another one on the board for the winner. It's Lex Luger.
When I won a match, I always hoped that my opponent would cry.
Now introducing one of the true stars of WCW, Diamond Dallas Page.
He's ready to give these fans wrestling action.
His opponent for tonight, Bam Bam Bigelow.
The stage is set for an epic battle between these fearless competitors.
These two guys, Tony, is that once the bell sounds, anything can happen. This will be a slugfest, pure and simple.
Backbreaker! Now, back when you were managing, you'd like things like this to happen. You like battles on the floor. That's when you can pull out that illegal object and help your man to a win.
Well, I would never really pull out an illegal object to help my man to win.
Oh, yeah, you would.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you would.
No.
That one really stunned Bam Bam. This is a devastating turn of events. He's got the chair. DDP just missed him with that swing.
Tony, you know, you should go down there and hold his opponent so he doesn't miss anymore.
He's looking like that stunned him a bit. Spectacular move. Is this it? It's over.
Ring the bell. We've got ourselves a winner.
Now making his entrance to the ring, a man who relies on action, not words. He is the master of the jackhammer, Goldberg.
Backbreaker. Hogan pulls off a nice move. Vertical suplex. Great anticipation there. That looked like it really hurt. Oh, he's got good insurance. Vertical suplex. That looked like it really hurt. Oh, he's got good insurance. Elbow. Seem to have found their way to the parking lot. These guys are going at each other like cats and dogs here in the backstage area. Full demolition in the ring.
I can't tell. Is this one guy even trying?
I can't believe they're not stopping the match after that attack.
I hope he's got the number of a good chiropractor, because he's going to need one, or a plumber. I'm just glad they're back there instead of up here with us. Now that's a good way to get a man's attention.
3, there it is! It's all over! It's all over!
And now, making their entrance to the ring, representing the NWO Wolfpack, Scott Hall. The second half of this tag team, Kevin Nash. Their opponents for tonight's match, Raven and Saturn.
This guy is full of tenacity and other stuff. You can beat him, kick him, leave him for dead. He'll keep coming back for more.
The cryonic kick. What are we going to see next?
That's not the way the brain would have done it, but it was effective and it'll work. I've seen guys in iron lungs look better than this guy.
Belly to belly suplex. Outsider's edge. What an unbelievable move. He's hurt badly. Someone call the match off.
You know, the paramedics should just come to ringside and shove an IV in his arm and get it over with.
3, it's over.
The winners of this match, Scott Hall and Kevin Big Sexy Man.
Now the N64 version was very similar in style. For me, being a PlayStation kid at the time, I was more used to the PlayStation controls, and you don't want to see the N64 footage I tried to record. But it was very similar. It does not have as much multimedia content because Nintendo decided to stick with cartridges while PlayStation was moving into the realm of CD-based gameplay at the time. And not to be forgotten, WCW Mayhem on the Game Boy Color. Now today we have a lot of options to play games on the go. Nintendo came out with their Switch in 2017, which is one of the biggest selling consoles of all time, where you can have the same game you play on your TV on your handheld just by picking it up. That design inspired a lot of other handheld PCs to start to crop up over the last few years. The Steam Deck by Valve being one of the most proliferate ones, which allows you to play many of your home computer games on the go, and streaming games through services like GeForce Now and Xbox Game Pass Cloud have really started cropping up the last 2 years or so to give you the same games you have at home on the go. In 1999, this was not thinkable. So, for those kids that wanted to keep up with their WCW Mayhem on the road, we have WCW Mayhem on the Game Boy Color. Now, the game features a very small roster in comparison, but you do have your big guys. You got Hollywood Hogan, you got Sting, you've got Bret Hart, Goldberg, DDP, pretty much the big guys you can think of with WCW, you got them. Like the top 6. And the matches, from what I recall, are only 1 versus 1. There is a tournament mode, or you can just fight the computer, which is what I did when capturing the footage. Now, the Game Boy Color had 2 buttons, B and A. This game somehow makes use of that. I did not play this game in 1999, so I'm coming at it 25 years later. And let me tell you, I suck at this game on Game Boy Color. If you think you can do better, feel free, make a video, put it up there. I'd love to see it. But going in without reading the manual, the footage I've captured for you now is what you get. Enjoy. after playing that game for as long as I did to capture that footage for you, the only thing I want to do is give it a good old diamond cutter. Bang! But finally, finishing off the big WCW rebrand of 1999, and the reason we're here talking about this on the pay-per-view, the game episode, is because to help push that game, EA teamed up with WCW for the first WCW Mayhem pay-per-view in November 1999. That's right, 25 years ago. Now, if you look at the game, and then the pay-per-view, and the rosters, you're going to scratch your head. Because there were a lot of changes during 1999. And this is part of the reason that a lot of people seem to think that was WCW's beginning of the end. Which, sure enough, in 2001 would unfortunately happen. Now, the WCW Mayhem pay-per-view event, if you're in the US, is available on Peacock. And internationally, you still have the WWE Network for now. They recently announced that next year, in 2025, it will be moving to Netflix internationally. Hopefully all of the pay-per-views make the cut. Now, the WCW Mayhem poster features several champions. Most of them did not appear. The biggest one being Hulk Hogan in the red and yellow, right there holding the gold. He was not in this pay-per-view. Now, going in to the WCW Mayhem pay-per-view, Sting had done his first ever heel turn in WCW. And he turned on a newly face-turned Hulk Hogan. And at Halloween Havoc 1999, Hulk Hogan laid down for Sting in the ring, giving Sting the title. This was not looked fondly on by the fans at the time. And following that pay-per-view, Sting had a match with Goldberg on Monday Nitro, in which Goldberg won. However, Sting said he never put up the title. There was a huge mess. Anyways, the title got vacated. Listen, if you're ever going to start a wrestling company, you better have a darn good reason to vacate a title. Otherwise, the fans do not like it. And the fans did not like this. So, going into Mayhem, you've already got an upset fan base. Your roster, based on the video game, has changed quite a bit. And what are you going to do? So WCW used Mayhem as a reset, so to speak. Now, going in, they were going to have a tournament to win the WCW Championship. And the semifinals for that night were going to be Sting versus Bret Hart in a match I was actually really looking forward to. And Jeff Jarrett versus He Who Shall Not Be Named. And they would go on to fight in the main event. There were other matches on the card. You can look it up. Sorry. There was a lot going on at the time, and well, there's a lot of storyline involved in all of those matches. So take a look. It's on the Wikipedia. Watch the show on Peacock or WWE Network or Netflix, wherever it is at the time you watch this. The wrestling was good. The storylines, not so much. However, the big thing that everyone cared about is who was going to leave champion. So while there were many matches on the card which are good to go back and watch, including a Goldberg-Sid Vicious match, it was not the main for some reason. I'm not going to get into the details of how they all got there because it's very convoluted at the time. Even the semifinals were convoluted. So, if the first one you had was Jeff Jarrett versus He Who Shall Not Be Named. Two very fine performers who would have had a very fine match if it wasn't for Dustin Rhodes coming out and getting involved and mucking things up a bit. Well, at the end, Jeff Jarrett hit a guitar over the head of He Who Shall Not Be Named to finish the match. A little further down the card, we had Bret Hart and Sting two of the greatest performers of all times, which should have been a main event in itself. They had a match for the next finalist spot, and in the battle of the Sharpshooter versus the Scorpion Deathlock. Sadly, the Scorpion Deathlock failed with a Sharpshooter for the win, giving us a final heavyweight championship match of He Who Shall Not Be Named, who won from disqualification, versus Bret Hart, who won by escaping a Scorpion Deathlock and putting on a Sharpshooter to win his match. Finally, in the main event, the finals for the tournament to win the WCW Championship, vacated previously, you have He Who Shall Not Be Named versus Bret Hart. Now, what should be an amazing match and talked about to this day is not, because of two reasons. One, shall not be named. Two, is because there was more interference in this match than a battle royal. And in the end, if you make it through all the craziness that happens at ringside in a WCW 1999 matchup, you have Bret Hart emerging as the World Heavyweight Champion. Finally. And that concludes the pay-per-view WCW Mayhem. Now, the clips are available online. I don't want to be in a battle with WWE over what I show. So, hopefully you enjoyed the game footage running as I was talking. If you want to see the show, absolutely fire up Peacock, WWE Network, Netflix, wherever you got it, or other ways, and enjoy it. It's definitely a time capsule to late WCW before the final downfall. Now, for our next film, with it being the holidays, we're going to go back to a property we looked at previously. In fact, our first episode. That episode had a sequel. And we're going to look at a true Christmas classic, Batman Returns. Next time on The Movie, The Game.